And today I'm going to show you quite the interesting build and combo. Um, Gold Wrap Boon of the Hoarder. Yeah, uh, I'll just keep my inventory up because once you see the insanity of this build, once we hit mobs, once you see the insanity of this build, you will know. That's a little high, don't you think? 500 million recovery. You don't die with this build. As soon as things start dying, you don't die. And once you have your Boon of the Hoarder upgraded, you're pretty much good. Elites definitely aren't the best thing to attack. But it's still, you're still super high toughness. Like, I've hit 11 billion toughness. Like right there, 11 billion. I'm probably gonna beat that. 13 billion. Yeah, that's how cheap you don't freaking die. And you always want to make sure you're picking up gold. This is a farming build, strictly farming build, because of course you don't pick up any gold and greater rifts. Um, but yeah, this is strictly farming, but it's still pretty absurd to watch. And you still kill things quickly. Um, so it's pretty good, pretty good, pretty good. Alright, so since we've shown you some of the gameplay of the build, I think once we kill everything, we're gonna run back here. And we're gonna kill these a-holes. Alright, so I'm gonna show you first the gear, then I'll go into skills, then I'll go into Paragon, and then Kanai. Well, gear will be, Kanai's will be put in with gear. So, the gear you're gonna want is full 6 pieces of DMOs. That's pretty much how it works. Because of slow time, you get even more resistance at first, and even without the Gold Wrap Boon of the Hoarder combo, you still get plenty of resistance. Next is the Endless Walk set. That's pretty much needed for any build that's decent right now. The next bit that is only legendary is Halo of Release. Your ice armor reduces damage from melee attacks by 56% and automatically casts Frost Nova whenever you take 10% of your life in damage. So anytime like boss hits you when if you're in a greater rift, you pretty much stun. Like, or anytime anything hits you that does more than 10% of your health, you pretty much always have them stunned. Next most important item is the Twisted Sword. That is your main source of damage because Explosive Blast does a decent amount of damage, but it's not of course the best thing because we have the Raging Storm, which will be explained a little bit later in skills. Next is Orb of Infinite Death. Now this ties in with Kanai's Cube, Wand of Woe. So this is really important as well. And then next is Ransler's Folly. Energy Twister periodically pulls in lesser enemies within 30 yards. So Pretty much a must-have for farming. Obviously not for greater rift spamming. Gold wrap is important. I got a really decent ancient roll. Um, so yeah. And the rest of Kanai's cube is Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac. Reduce main cooldown on one of your skills by 1 second when you hit with a resource spending attack and defense, or main 2 attacks or resource spending attacks. You're pretty much always getting all of your cooldowns reduced by 1 second. The Shame of Delthair. Your signature spells attack 50% faster and restore 12 arcane power. So yeah, that's build. The gear of the build. Next now is the skills. Energy Twister, Raging Storm. Now you want to see if you can hit a corner. Hold on, let me see if I can. Oh crap. If you can hit a corner like that, they will stay there. They won't move anymore. So that's cool. The good trick for Energy Twister. Now the next piece of the next skill is slow times, stretch times. Since we're not using the crown. I gotta find it. Because we're not using the Crown of Primus, we need to use something that will either help a group or help you. Time is sped up for any allies standing in the area, increasing their attack speed by 10%. So this is good for farming in groups. If you're solo farming, you would want to either use Time Warp or Exhaustion. Next skill is Shock Pulse Piercing Orb. Mainly because it hits more. Everything else will just hit one enemy. Unless you're using Electrocute, and I just don't like Electrocute. This is a little bit more AoE, and this build is AoE centered, so you want to do that a little bit more. So Shock Pulse does do that. Next is Ice Armor Crystallize. When you're struck by a melee attack, your armor is increased by 20% for 30 seconds. This effect stacks up to 3 times. So every time you are struck by anything that hits melee, you get a stack of this, and this increases your resistances. So pretty much you're stacking up your toughness so you don't die and you can deal all the damage you need to. Next is Magic Weapon Force Weapons to increase damage. Now, normally you would use Deflection here since this is a highly defensive build, but it doesn't really matter if you are using Gold Wrap Boon of the Hoarder because you're hitting 11 billion toughness every time you kill something, which is a lot when you kill something. So next is, of course, Explosive Blast Chain Reaction. Another rune would be, personally, I would like to use Unleashed, but I haven't tested it. You can test it for yourself because it does more damage, but I personally prefer Chain Reaction. Now we'll go into the passives. Audacity, since you're going to be up close, so you deal 30% additional damage to enemies within 15 yards. Next is Illusionist, which when you take 15% of your maximum life and damage within 1 second, the cooldowns of your mirror image, slow time, and teleport are reset. And whenever you use slow time, mirror image, teleport, your movement speed is increased by 30%. Which really isn't necessary, but Illusionist is just a good passive altogether. Next is Glass Cannon. It increase all damage done by 15%, decrease armor and resistances by 10%. Now it's a little bit sacrifice, but it's not that big a sacrifice because of gold wrap Boon of the Hoarder, which is it just doesn't matter. Next is evocation, reduce all cooldowns by 20%. Now that's pretty much the build. Paragon is helpful for sure, but definitely not mandatory. Like I don't even have that high of a Paragon level, like not at all. So on core you're gonna want to split intelligence and vitality. Offense, crit damage, crit chance, crit damage, cooldown reduction, and attack speed. Life, armor, resist all, life regeneration. You're gonna go. I went area damage, and I went life on hit, then resource cost reduction. I did this because I got the chance to deal 20% area damage on this when I re-rolled, and I have 70% area damage. So that's a lot of damage. So that's the build. I'll show you a little bit more of the gameplay. You're definitely going to want to stay in close proximity with a lot of enemies if you're solo farming. And if you're group farming, you want to get in close to enemies and you want to be first. You want to kind of skip, kill, and things that don't die automatically, just skip them. Now if you watch the toughness, we are at 11 billion again. So that is the way you do that. And if you hit an elite, definitely kill it because it drops more gold, meaning you can get more resistances. So yeah, that is the build. And even without that, when you're in time warp, you pretty much don't die too much either. I guess it is definitely not a Greater Rift build because of course nothing drops anything until the boss. If you were to want to do this if you wanted to use this build on Greater Rifts, you could switch out Boon of the Hoarder for Bane of the Stricken, and take the best belt you pretty much can find with a good affix or just good stats in general. So yeah, that's the build. I hope you enjoyed it. And this is definitely not an elite strong. Elites aren't this build's strong point, but it's good for farming rifts, even with its elites not being a strong point. But still, this is the build. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.